Picture the scene. You have a nice Yamaha Reface CP and you want to use it with your computer. So normally you just go onto the back of the Reface CP and you would plug a USB cable into it. But I hear you say, you don't want to have to use none of that old school wired stuff. You want to use some new school Bluetooth stuff. So you get this thing, which is tiny. This is the CME WIDI Jack by CME. But yeah, basically what this is a Bluetooth MIDI interface. So you have two TRS cables at the bottom, and this specifically ends in like a 6-pin MIDI, just like what the Yamaha Reface takes in. So you plug this out of the Yamaha Reface CP, it turns on when you turn the CP on, you pair it up with whatever it is that you want, so you know, computers, tablets, phones, things like that, and then you can use this as a MIDI controller with any of those devices, which is pretty cool because, you know, most phones don't have the support of USB connectivity to something like this without like having to use adapters or so on. This is really small, like incredibly small, and if you don't have a Reface CP to hand, let me give you something that you very likely know the size of to compare it to. That's right, the jack itself is basically smaller than a AAA battery. That is a AAA, not a AA. I'm not even joking. Look, it's made by Mustang, and it says, look, AAA. Yeah. The WIDI Jack doesn't only come with that 2 TRS to like 6-pin MIDI, you can also get these, which are like little cables that connect from TRS to like the 5-pin MIDI on either one, so that you can hook it in like normal. So if you wanted to, you could still use the breakout cable in this, but I got this set up and then also these separately, just because I wanted to connect it directly into the Reface CP and I thought it would be easier. But when you buy it, normally you can choose to buy it as just the WIDI Jack on its own. So if you're hooking it up into stuff that uses TRS, like looping pedals or whatever it is, then you can just like use standard TRS cables between the two and it's all right. Let's get on to the main thing that you're going to think about and talk about latency. On their website, it says that if you're using two of these together and like linking them up with each other, then you'll get normally like 3 milliseconds of latency, which is hardly anything. They do say that varies with like, I think most computers getting the most with around about 15 milliseconds of latency or so on. I've got to be honest, I connected this up to my computer, started playing with it, and I've got to be real, didn't really have any latency. I've maybe had like what felt like maybe a couple of milliseconds, but it wasn't enough that I wasn't able to record MIDI into the computer alongside a track that I was playing and still have it feeling in time. And that was with the CP speakers off, so I was only listening through the computer and it still sounded absolutely fine. So the WIDI Jack seems to be going quite well. You don't really get any latency, you can hook it up to anything that you want using standard TRS cables, and it does all of it by Bluetooth without you needing to charge it up, so you don't need to worry about a battery running out and needing to get like a new one or needing it to be serviced anytime soon. So what's the problem with it? Well, for this, I'm going to need to get out a different synth. So this is the Korg Volca drum, which has a MIDI in. It also has sync available to it and headphones. And that is almost the entire reason that this gives you a bit of a problem, because it only has a MIDI in, not a MIDI out. So how is it that you can give power to the WIDI Jack if you don't have a MIDI out? Well, they thought of that. And you have on the side a USB-C port. Now this can only do power, which is the other, like, not really issue, but like asterisk that I have. So what you would do is you would plug this into the MIDI in of the Volca drum, and then you would have a USB-C cable connected into the side so that it gets power and it can do everything over Bluetooth. If you want to plug this into a Volca drum and you have your computer nearby, it's very likely you're going to use like a USB-C cable or like a USB-A to USB-C cable into this from your computer, and then this will connect into the MIDI in of the Volca drum. What would be cool is if it then decided to work as a USB MIDI interface instead, but it doesn't. It just works as a Bluetooth one that's being powered by your computer. Now, you could make the point of, well, if you're around a desk and you know you have power outlets but you don't have a readily accessible USB port on your computer, it's still beneficial to be able to plug this into power and then use Bluetooth, because then you still have a USB port spare. And that makes sense. I've got to be real, that makes sense. But it would be nice if there was a way to have this work as a data connection. I would say though that this is a relatively specific use case. I've only really seen that the Korg Volcas are the only real synthesizers that only have a MIDI in and not a MIDI out. I haven't seen much else that acts in exactly the same way. and I only really own one of these, so like it's like one thing that I would maybe need a USB MIDI interface for if I wanted to use it over USB instead of Bluetooth. So let's talk about price. In the UK, the WIDI Jack comes at around about £40. That's normally the WIDI Jack and then one of its cable setups, with each of the extra cable setups costing anywhere between like a couple of quid to like 10 or 15 if you get the CME one. But you can just use any TRS cable that you want. Comparing that to USB MIDI cables, you can get a USB to MIDI cable for relatively cheap, around about like 10 to 15 quid. But then of course that means that you need to have a USB port available and that you're kind of restricted to computers. So if you wanted to use this with mobile devices or with other Bluetooth MIDI controllers that you wanted to then have controlling your original device, you'd need to get something like this. Also, for the extra cost compared to like getting MIDI cables, I can see where this would be a lot more elegant. Like if I actually had a setup of lots of synthesizers, so if I had my Reface CP and my mini log out and then also maybe something like a Sculpt, and I wanted to hook all three of those up without using a computer, I could see the benefit of like getting 3 of these and plugging them into the back of each of them and then just having them turn on and like match up with each other and see what's going on. So, you know, I can see the benefit of it. I can see where this is really cool. Also, forgot to mention, it comes with like a little magnetic sticker. That's the thing on the back. So you can stick this onto your thing that you're using it with, and then this can magnet right onto it. So it's really nice and neat. But yeah, that's been my overview of the WIDI Jack. I hope that you found this useful. I know that when I was looking up information about it, I didn't really find a lot, and that latency thing was a big enough deal for me to want to research. So yeah, I hope I've given you an answer to that if you were looking for one. Enjoy the rest of your day. I ain't going out into the snow because the snow stopped, which is a bit of a shame, but that's too bad. Cool.